What's going on, everybody? Zach back here with another episode of Clutch Crew Sports. And here on today's episode, we're going to find out what teams should be panicking and what teams should be feeling good about themselves. Uh, a pretty down week on the lock board. We'll get to that. And then, man, oh man, is the news and everything heating up for the NBA. We got free agency and draft coming up next week. It's all the stuff in the NBA is happening right at the same time, which I don't like, but let me introduce you to the rest of our crew.
What's going on, guys? It is Connor, the co-host with the most, and pretty disappointing week for me on the lock board this week. I think this tied for my worst week I've had. Mostly thanks to DeAndre Hopkins and that catch. Thanks for that. And but the Steelers are still undefeated, so still riding high with that, and I'm excited for another go around.
What's going on, y'all? This is Eric, your ranting co-host. Probably won't get into it this episode, but I could rant about my Thunder basically looking like they're about to trade the whole team.
But, just like last year.
Yeah, seriously.
Nothing new.
Like, we were supposed to rebuild last year, but then we didn't. So now we're rebuilding. But anyway, while it wasn't a great week for me on the lock board, I did have the best week, so I can't complain there. And excited to do some more NFL NBA talk.
It's starting already.
Uh-oh, Nate, you there?
Nate.
What's up? We
just started.
Sorry about that. Yep, here I am. What's up, guys? It's Nate here. I definitely didn't have a good week with any of my picks on lockboard and regular NFL, but at least my Pats had an upset win, so it wasn't all bad this weekend. Yeah. Looking forward to hopefully a better week this weekend. Talking a little bit more about the NBA, having some exciting stuff coming up, so a lot to look forward to.
Yeah, I think Nate's nickname needs to be remade. Needs to be the internet co-host.
Yeah,
All right.
giving me some trouble since I've been here.
Yeah, it's weird. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But I know that feeling. So we start out like always with Around the Shield, and I'll let Connor kind of explain what all of this on the screen means. Hopefully, if you're watching, you're not like pressing your fist at the panic button because you're paranoid about what all this stuff means. But Connor, tell the people what this is.
Yes, well, you need to be pressing your fist on the "Don't Panic" button. But yeah, no. Basically, I mean, this is going to be similar to what we've done in the past. The only difference here is that this time, so in the past when we did like trick or treat, buy or sell, and whatnot, we had like a horizontal bar, like, you know, we would be as far left or far right, depending on how we felt. This time we're just going to have a vertical line. So you're either going to be, we've got 5 NFL teams picked out that are started out really good, but are starting to slip, or maybe have had an injury or something like that that could be room for panic. So basically, we're either going to say, are you going to panic about this team or don't panic? So there's going to be no in between. And we're going to see where everybody stands on these teams. I'm interested to see for a couple of these where everybody stands. So
yeah,
we're going to start out a team that is surprisingly on a 2-game losing streak right now. Oh, whoops, I'm moving the wrong picture. But they're on a 2-game losing streak right now, which I don't think anybody thought coming into this week. So we're going to start with the Seattle Seahawks. Are you panicking or not panicking?
Are you guys both good, Nate and
Yes.
Eric? Okay.
Shoot.
Oh wow.
Oh.
Nate's, let me just delete
My
that and
picture
then
blow up like.
get you a new picture. You can just tell us what.
Yeah,
I'm having. Sorry about that. I'm trying to pull it up on my computer. I'm
It's
on
okay.
the don't panic side, and I'll try and fix that picture.
I mean,
I was trying on my phone because it kind of slows down my computer, but my
slows
that's
down.
a little bit weird.
Okay. All right. Okay. So while you're doing that, I guess let's hear from Connor. You were the only one that picked the panic side. Okay, so um, I'm kind of surprised you picked panic for the Seahawks, but tell the people why.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's obviously not going to be good for any of us if the Seahawks miss the playoffs, considering they were a key part in all of our picks. But not saying they're going to miss the playoffs, but I think definitely. I feel like this is unfortunately a common occurrence when it comes to Russell Wilson. Like he'll start out the first half of the season looking like the MVP, and then we kind of hit the halfway mark, and then he starts falling off. And this kind of happened last year, where the first half of the season it looked like a close race between Russell Wilson and Patrick Mahomes, and then like we hit the second half of the season and Wilson completely fell out of the conversation. Like then it turned into Mahomes versus Lamar Jackson. So um, definitely worrying for me because obviously we all know how bad the Seahawks defense is. I mean, even getting Jamal Adams back still hasn't fixed their problems on defense. So it really is a worrying sign for me that their offense has been doing so bad. I mean, I know they put up 33 points against the Bills, but that was a little bit inflated given that a couple of those drives came in garbage time when the Bills were playing prevent defense. So the fact that they only managed to put up 13 against the Rams this week is a little concerning, given that obviously, I mean, Aaron Donald's a force to be reckoned with, but they definitely should have put up more points. And other than Jalen Ramsey, their secondary is pretty garbage. So Russell Wilson should have had a field day throwing it to Tyler Lockett in the tight end. So definitely concerning for me. I didn't think I would be here a week ago, but now here I am.
Yeah, Nate, are you back and good to talk right now?
Yeah, I should be. You guys
Okay.
hear me?
Yeah, I can hear
Yes,
you.
sir.
All right,
So
cool.
so I'll let you talk for our side. The three of us said don't panic. Why are you not hitting the panic button for Seattle?
I'm not hitting the panic button quite yet. I mean, I definitely agree with what Connor said, and that definitely like would worry me too if I was a Seahawks fan. I think it definitely could be a concern as you move forward with the end of the season, the playoffs. But I think I'm not ready to hit the button just yet because obviously you still have Russell Wilson, who is I would say top 5 player in the NFL. I think obviously they had a down week this week, but I think week in and week out having him and his connection with Metcalf and Lockett keeps them dangerous. If they get a running game going and get their offense balanced out, I think they could. It's still time to turn things around. They're still, I believe, tied at the top of their division, and it's definitely a winnable division, I would say. So, not ready to panic just yet, but there's definitely some real concerns there.
Well, I will
Yeah.
say for the Seahawks' sake, they are tied at the top of the division, but they are at the bottom of that three-way tie because the
Right.
Rams
Oh
and
yeah.
the Rams and the Cardinals have the tiebreakers on them at this moment.
Yeah. Well, Nate basically summed up exactly what I was going to say. I don't know if Eric wants to add anything, or we can move on to the next team.
No,
Okay.
Nate did a good job.
Okay. Let's go.
Good,
Let's
good
go to.
representation, Nate.
Thank you.
Let's go
Yeah.
to the next team here.
Yeah, so next team we've got one of the four teams in the NFC least. They were comfortably leading the division up until their loss to Eric's favorite team, the New York Football Giants. And so and they're looking a bit more precarious. Obviously, the Eagles, they were looking like the runaway team for the NFC East until this week. So panic or don't panic for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Okay, Nate successfully moved this picture. We have like
Yep.
to the
Oh
panic
man,
side now.
I'm on my own again.
Yeah,
Crap.
yeah.
Okay, so wow, this has been interesting. Yeah, so Connor's by himself on the don't panic for the Eagles. Myself, Eric, and Nate are on the panic for the Eagles. Connor brought up those New York Football Giants there, and we know that's Eric's favorite team. So I want to hear Eric's reason the panic for the Eagles since the Giants just beat them this week.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see how the Eagles could not be panicking, really. I mean, not that the Giants are suddenly turning into like an amazing team or anything, but Carson Wentz has just been very underwhelming this year, and they've already had a ton of injuries they've been dealing with, but also just the Giants while their 3 wins have all been against divisional teams, they haven't beaten anybody outside of the division yet. They've still played some really close, tight games and their games outside of the division. And I feel like eventually they're going to start winning some of them. And if Philly keeps losing, then they obviously have to be in panic mode. Zach and I were talking about this the other day, where as hard as this is to fathom and believe, it's almost with Dak being injured now, it's and the way Carson Wentz has been playing, Daniel Jones is really probably the best quarterback in this division now. As crazy as that sounds. And
come on, man, it's not Garrett Gilbert.
No, yeah, he is starting to play a little bit better. And I don't know, man, ever since Zach made me make predictions on why the New York Football Giants could go from worst to first in this crappy division, they've been playing better football. So I'm just gonna give myself credit for that.
Okay.
Obviously, I know that's not why, but yeah, I'm definitely curious to hear why Connor thinks they don't need to panic.
I mean, I think my reasoning for why they don't need to panic is just because of the fact that they're still playing in the NFC East. And I will say, for the Eagles' sake, if I'm Doug Peterson, given, obviously, like I said, how bad the division is and, that a losing record is going to end up winning this division, and I would not be opposed at all to starting Jalen Hurts next week. To see what you got with Jalen Hurts, I mean, Carson Wentz has obviously been horrible this season. I mean, he's a far cry from the guy that Nate and Zach thought were going to be MVP last season. So, I mean, start Jalen Hurts. Let's see what he does. He obviously brings a different dimension to the offense with his ability to run the ball. He's kind of like you can kind of, and especially with how good Miles Sanders is. I mean, even on this offense, Miles Sanders is a bright spot. So they could kind of run a similar offense to kind of what like Arizona and especially Baltimore run, just a very run heavy offense. And like a very run heavy and relying on the defense, because this defense is still good. I know obviously Daniel Jones put up more points on them than he probably should have, but the defense is still the strong part of this team. And obviously your defense doesn't get helped when your offense is consistently going 3 and out. So any defense is going to crack under the pressure at some point when that's the case. I mean, like we saw with the Steelers last year, they probably had the best defense, but with Mason Rudolph and the offense not generating anything, they just got tired and couldn't hold up. So not time to panic yet for the Eagles. Like I said, I gave all those reasons, but my main one is still they play in the NFC least. Yeah. So, a losing record is going to win you the division probably.
Yeah.
All right. So next team on our list, hopefully I'm not on my own on this one. The Tennessee Titans of the AFC South, a pretty horrible loss to the Indianapolis Colts and also a loss to the Steelers a couple of weeks back. Not looking good for them looking at their I don't know what I'm trying to say here, but not beating good teams. The Tennessee Titans, panic or don't panic?
Okay, I'm moving myself.
Thankfully, Zach's on my side here.
Yeah. Okay, it looks like Eric is by himself on the panic, I believe, and then the 3 of us are on don't panic. So I haven't said anything yet, so I guess it's my turn now to talk. I don't think the Titans should panic just yet because if you look, I know I haven't looked at all the games left on the schedule, but I know they still have the Texans and Jaguars left on their schedule. So those should be 2 wins right there. And it's easy to forget, but they demolished Buffalo. And they lost to Pittsburgh in a close game. And it's really just going to come down to them and the Colts to win the AFC South. And then the loser, with the way the AFC is, the wild cards are not a guarantee for anybody. So you really do want to win your division. And I think that at the end of the day, they do win the division over the Colts. I'm still not a fan of Phillip Rivers. I think Tannehill is going to be the better quarterback than Rivers. He had a bad game Thursday night, but I think he'll be back, and I think Derrick Henry will be back too. The defense is what scares me the most with this team, but when it's just a 2-way race with them and the Colts, Now, losing the first game never sets you in a good spot for tiebreaker scenarios, but I do think that they will end up edging the Colts in the long run. Eric, why are you panicking for the Titans' sake?
So I'm not necessarily panicking so bad in the sense of them not making the playoffs or anything like that, but I'm panicking because they were doing so well. They were 5-0, but then they really have not been playing that great since then. Like it seemed like ever since they lost to the Steelers, they've been struggling. They've lost 3 out of their last 4 games. They beat the Texans, but that was because Romeo Crennel was an idiot with his coaching. I mean, you could easily, idiot Romeo Crennel. Like, all you had to do was kick the extra point. You could have had a head coaching job next year. But anyway, so that could have been a loss. They barely beat the Vikings. They barely beat the Broncos and Jags at the beginning of the season. I wasn't really impressed with most of their wins early on. I felt like they were, even though they were 5-0, and obviously a win is a win, but it was kind of like how we talked about the Packers last year when they were doing so well. We felt like they weren't really a great 13-3 team at the end of the year. Like when the Titans were 5-0, that's kind of how I felt about them. I just don't think we were talking about it because the Bears were in a similar position and they were probably an even worse team that had a great record. So with them now suddenly losing 3 out of the last 4 games, if I'm a Titans fan, I would definitely be panicking a little bit. And they do have the Jags and Texans and Lions, which are favorable, but they still have the Ravens, Browns, Colts again, and the Packers, which are all not favorable games. So I still think they make the playoffs as one of those wild card seeds, but given where they were when they were 5-0, and I think a lot of people thought they could maybe get back to the AFC title game or something again. Like if I'm a Titans fan, I'm not feeling that excited right now. And obviously, I wouldn't mind if they just lost all the games. As a Jags fan. Lose them all.
Okay. Well, let's hear from this next team. They're really interesting.
All right. So, yeah, this next team, this is definitely, I mean, maybe you could put the Seahawks in this scenario, but maybe out of all these teams on this list, this is the one I was most surprised about to be on this list here. The Baltimore Ravens, the home of last season's MVP, the number 1 seed in the AFC last year. But they've lost 2 out of their last 3 games. Is it time to panic for the Baltimore Ravens?
Ooh, okay. Ooh. Connor, you staying put on Don't Panic?
Yeah, I'm staying put on Don't Panic.
Okay, so we have our first official tie with Nate and myself being on the panic side, hearing the buzzers, alarms going off, and then Eric and Connor are on the Don't Panic side. So let's hear from Nate why you're panicking with the Ravens.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously they're not doing horribly this year. They're 6-3, but they have, like you said, lost their last 2 games versus the Colts and versus the Pats. The main reason I'm worried is because they do play in a division.
The Steelers. They beat the Colts, but they lost to the Steelers.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. I was looking at the list wrong. That's right. Okay. Yeah. That is the reason why I'm kind of panicking, because they do play in a division with the Steelers. They have to play them again, and there's a good chance that they might be 2 games back, or no, obviously more than 2 games back. But even if the Steelers started losing games, they'd be behind in the tiebreaker to them. So I think it's they definitely are, not in the driver's seat to winning this division. And even as far as making a wild card spot, I think their weaknesses as a team have been exposed. I mean, the game versus the Patriots was in bad conditions, obviously, but that should suit a team like the Ravens, who are built to run the ball. It's kind of their whole identity. And Lamar just has not looked as great as a passer this year. I think he's taken a step back. And, the issues we had with him as a rookie as far as accuracy and making plays with the arm have definitely been kind of came back a little bit. So that kind of worries me going forward. The defense looks solid. The running game, Lamar still is great in that aspect, but I think overall it's they're not looking as great as we thought they would be at this point coming into the season.
Yeah, I'll quickly add on to that. You said good stuff. Injuries are starting to pile up for them too, that their offensive
Mhm.
line and their teams are figuring them out on offense, and their offense is so run heavy that if teams can stop the run, there's nothing else they can do because Lamar has not taken that next step as a passer, and it's really showing. And like I said at the start of the season, if teams figure out Lamar, this is why the Ravens aren't going to be in the AFC Championship game. This is why I had them second in the division. So, but let's hear from the Steelers fan himself, Connor, on on why the Ravens should not panic.
Well, trust me, I never pass up an opportunity to hate on the Ravens, but I mean, I know we didn't do a horizontal scale for this one, but I'm definitely right on the edge here between panic and
Yeah,
don't panic. Because thing for the Ravens for me, the one thing that they do have going for them right now, especially from what I'm looking at, is that they do have the Titans this week, and they do got to play the Steelers next week. But after that, they have home against the Cowboys. Then they're going on the road against the Browns. That'll probably be tough. But then home against the Jaguars, home against the Giants, and then the Bengals. So the Ravens have a very favorable schedule going forward. 4 out of these last 7 games should be, I mean, assuming nothing crazy happens, 4 out of these last 7 games should be very winnable and could be winnable by a couple touchdowns. So obviously, you guys touched on the panic points. This isn't an easy division by any stretch. I mean, the Steelers are still undefeated. I mean, I know they've had close games, but a win's a win, and they're undefeated for a reason. And they already lost their home game against the Steelers, so because the next game that they play on Thanksgiving is going to be in Pittsburgh, so it's never good when you lose your home game to a division opponent, and you still have one more to go. So but the thing about the Ravens for me is that that defense is still, I mean, it's still toe to toe with like the Steelers and the Buccaneers and the Colts for trying to vie for that best defense. And then the offense, I know obviously that wasn't a good look against the Patriots, but I think if they can do better when it comes, because obviously Lamar has regressed as a passer, but he's still serviceable, and I think that's all he really needs to be when it comes to, they've got a fantastic running back trio. Oh, and I mean quartet or I don't know how you say that. A fantastic,
quartet. I don't
yeah,
know.
quartet. There you go. A fantastic quartet of running backs if you include Lamar Jackson. I mean, obviously Lamar is Lamar, but they got Mark Ingram, who is he's still a bruiser. J.K. Dobbins has looked fantastic as a rookie, and obviously Gus Edwards is still a good change of pace back. So I'm not panicking just yet, but I'm definitely right on the edge because this division, and with the situation with the division and with how the AFC wild cards are so wide open this year, given how good a lot of the teams are, it's definitely going to be a tough road ahead, but a very favorable schedule.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's our first tie so far, and let's get to this last team now.
All right, so this is a team actually that was not going to be on this list up until about 15 to 20 minutes before we started this episode. But now with the news about Drew Brees, the Saints, is it time to panic for the Saints or don't panic for the Saints?
Okay, so it looks like Eric's by himself on the panic side, and then Nate, Connor, and myself are on the don't panic side. So I guess let's hear from Eric first on why he's panicking for the Saints.
Yeah, I mean, well, I guess I haven't heard of the severity of the injury. Like, is it official that he's out for the season?
So basically, I mean, the injury, I guess I'll say what the injury is. The injury is he has 5 fractured ribs, which 3 of those were actually fractured last week against the Buccaneers, and they just didn't know until this week. And then 2 of them he fractured this week, plus he has a collapsed lung. Now, the recovery timetable that I saw, sounded very optimistic to me because it said like 2 to 3 weeks. Which I think if he was like 24, 25 years old, like if this happened to like Lamar, if this happened to like Lamar Jackson or Kyler Murray or somebody, then I think maybe, yeah, they could be back in that time. But given that Breeze is 41 years old, I'd say that's very optimistic. So I think right now, what the sense I'm getting from the Saints is that they're hoping he'll be back for the playoffs, but for the regular season, if he comes back, it probably won't be till like the last week or something like that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Because I think that 2 to 3 weeks is highly optimistic given his age.
I doubt that. Yeah, I'm panicking. Jameis Winston just scares me as a quarterback. He has these amazing moments where, like, he's going to be the Saints quarterback now. Like, he'll probably have a play where he throws a 60-yard bomb to Michael Thomas or something, and you're like, wow, this guy's a beast. And then on the next drive, he's going to go out and throw a pick six into triple coverage. It's like, you don't know what he's going to do. And I know Drew Brees has kind of underperformed, like, in playoffs and situations, and he's doesn't have the arm he used to have and all that, but he's still shown this season that when he's played, that he can be reliable. He still doesn't make mistakes. He's a little bit more of like a game manager now, but I would rather have that than Jameis Winston. And it's just scary. And obviously they've still got a lot of other great pieces around him, and they've gotten other people back from their injuries and things like that, which are good. But man, like, I just do not trust Jameis Winston. Now, if he comes out this week, first game, and puts on a great performance, then I'll hop off of the panic meter. But for right now, I would be panicking if I'm a Saints fan.
Okay, well, I want to go on this one because I picked the side of don't panic, and I don't do this a whole lot. I don't know the last time I've done it, but really bold lock here that's going to shock everybody maybe, but I think even if Breeze comes back healthy, I don't think Breeze plays again for the Saints this year. I think Jameis Winston is going to take the job and keep the job even when Breeze comes back. Yeah, and here's why. Because Eric just went roasting on Jameis Winston, but I've always been somewhat of a Jameis fan, and I think with the pick sixes and the interceptions thing, I think now we're starting to see that's just a result of Tampa Bay's offense, because Brady has had those issues too. So, and Brady's never been known for that. So you're looking at a guy who, yeah, he had a lot of bad pick sixes in Tampa, but the way New Orleans offense is structured, it's not like Tampa where you just throw the ball deep all the time. And so I think he's not going to have that interception problem with New Orleans. I think Sean Payton's a great head coach. I think they've been planning for Jameis to be the future anyways. And I know Breeze has looked good the last couple of weeks, but still before that, the stuff I saw from him, it wasn't very good. And honestly, I think Winston's going to give him a better chance to win in the long run. So I'm actually more scared as a Buccaneers fan now that they have Jameis Winston as their quarterback than Drew Brees. I just think Brees hadn't been playing well at all. And while he'd been safe with the football, he hadn't been throwing anything deep. So we'll see. I think Jameis can throw it obviously deep now. I don't think he's going to throw it at the rate where he gets those interceptions, but I actually think the Saints are going to go on a roll here and win a lot of games. And I think you're going to get to the point where it's going to be a tough decision, but you're not going to want to take out a quarterback who's just won 4 or 5 games, which I think Winston will have won to get to that point when Breeze comes back. So that's my crazy bold lock of the night. But yeah, so I'm definitely on the dope panic side. I don't know if you guys, I guess the people at Nate and Connor, how realistic does my lock sound to you? Start with Nate.
I mean, I don't know. It could be interesting for sure. I mean, I don't know that I would lock it myself, but I wouldn't be necessarily surprised if it happened. Actually, I mean, that definitely a possibility.
I mean, I think from my perspective, the reason why I don't think it's going to happen is because I don't think Jameis Winston's going to be the main reason why they win, why they keep winning. Because in my mind, the Saints are built around, I mean, like, their defense has gotten so much better over the past couple of weeks, and their offense is completely built around Alvin Kamara. I mean, if Alvin Kamara is not getting like at least 15 to 20 touches a game, or probably more than that, then their offense is doing something wrong. So I do think it'll help them a lot, though, on offense, like Zach said, that having Jameis Winston in a quarterback now gives this offense a dimension that now you have to guard against the deep ball because obviously Winston can throw it. The Saints haven't gotten into any situations like the Cardinals were in this week with like Hail Marys and stuff. But I can guarantee you that had they been, then Drew Brees would have not been the one throwing it. Winston would have come into the game to throw it. So it definitely gives their offense a better dimension, and I think it's going to open up holes for Alvin Kamara. Like, he's already been torching defenses this year, and now I think he's going to torch them even more because as soon as, they key on Alvin Kamara and they've slowed down Alvin Kamara, hit them with a 40-yard bomb, and then it's like, oh, crap, now we have to back up again, so then now here comes Kamara to torch you again. Yeah. So, but that's the thing. I don't think he's going to be the main reason behind it. And obviously, Breeze is the heart and soul and the leader of this team. So, and given his relationship with Sean Payton, I just don't see that happening if Breeze is able to come back healthy.
Yeah. All right. So there you go, guys. Heard a bold lock there, and reasons. We only ended up picking, in summary, the Eagles are the only team we agreed on to panic, and we had the Ravens split 50-50. And then we decided Saints, Seahawks, and Titans all are on the don't panic side. So that's where you go, guys. That's how things look in week. And now let's transition over here and talk really quickly about the game of the week from this past week, like we do every week. And this one is going to be Buffalo at Arizona. Obviously, Arizona won 32-30. Congrats to Nate for being the only one getting that right. But Connor's been talking about this a lot this episode. So, Connor, obviously, tell us about that crazy play that happened and how surprised you were that ended up working.
Yeah,
three good secondary members for the Bills.
Oh, yeah, no, that was. I mean, going into this game, I mentioned at the beginning that Hopkins burned me because I did pick. This was on my lock board that the Bills were gonna complete the upset here, and obviously DeAndre Hopkins ruined that for me. But it was a really good game to watch because it was really back and forth. I know there was a little bit of a weird moment in between, like after the Cardinals took the lead, because the Bills kind of dominated early on. But then Allen threw an interception, and then Kyler Murray was able to come back with 2 rushing touchdowns. So, but there was a little bit of a lull in the middle where, like, I don't know what both teams were doing. Like, Allen threw an interception, and then Allen threw another interception, and then like the Cardinals had a quick 3-and-out, and then the Bills had a 3-and-out. But then on the punt, like I don't know who, it wasn't 3-and-out, but they forced the Bills to punt, and then on the punt return, Christian Kirk ran like 8 yards in the wrong direction, which like it took them from the 11-yard line to the 3-yard line. I was like, what in the world is he doing? Like, you can't try and make anything fancy happen when you're back near your own goal line. So then the Cardinals had to punt, which set up the Bills' drive, which that was fantastic for my fantasy team, I'll point out, because I made the trade with Eric for Stephon Diggs. So getting the Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs touchdown, that was huge. But yeah, the Bills, honestly, obviously that Hail Mary was a 1 in a million play. Tre'Davious White and Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde were all over DeAndre Hopkins, and he still came down with the catch. If this is something that doesn't prove that DeAndre Hopkins is like one of, if not the best wide receivers, and that the Texans were like the dumbest. Bill O'Brien was like the dumbest GM in the history of ever for trading him. I don't know what does. But I think, the Bills really killed themselves with prevent defense again. Leading up to that play, I was just watching and I'm like, the Bills are playing prevent defense. Like, I know the Cardinals need a touchdown, but like, you can't let them get this close. Like, you'll take underneath stuff all day, but like, when that underneath stuff is still getting them like 10, 12 yards every play, it took it to where the Cardinals were able to be in that position to heave it. Because, Kyler Murray, he doesn't have the biggest arm in the world. So, if the Bills had managed to keep them on the wrong side of midfield, then that pass probably wouldn't have worked. But the fact that they got down to the 40-yard line helped them a lot. So, it was very entertaining. And I think both teams have nothing to be ashamed of. I don't think the Bills should have anything to be ashamed of. They were going to win the game had it not been for that miracle. So the Bills, obviously, no shame. And I think no shame for the Cardinals either. They played a good game. So it's always exciting to watch 2 potential playoff teams square off. And this one did not disappoint.
Yeah, I have 2 takeaways on this, but I'll let Nate, did you catch this game at all? Do you want to talk about what this means for Buffalo or Arizona, since you picked Arizona to win. I know you didn't expect them to win like they did, but
Yeah.
so you were confident about them going into this?
I was, yeah. I mean, I didn't get a chance to sit down and watch the whole game at home, but I definitely was confident in Arizona the way their offense has been looking. I know Kyler Murray had some issues with turnovers, but I think Buffalo just hasn't really inspired me, I guess. Overall, the same way that Arizona has. I think Arizona's trending pretty well, and Buffalo's still in a good spot. They're still a good team, but I think Arizona just has a little bit more. I don't know. I guess like excitement. I guess going forward right now, especially after last night. I think that's gonna help them moving forward as well. Get some momentum going.
Yeah. So I've been. I'll get to my two takeaways real quick. I was super critical of that Arizona win over Seattle, and I'm honestly not gonna. My takeaway from this is both teams tried to lose this game because, first of all, from the Arizona point of view, like Connor was talking about with that punt return that was idiotic, and then they could not seal the deal. They couldn't get a first down at all. Then I think they threw an interception, and it was just like, oh my god, they don't want to win this game. And then on Buffalo's side, they had a drive where they had like 5 consecutive penalties in a row, and a lot of them were dumb.
I remember that.
They got to like a 3rd and 33. Like I was like, oh my god. And then so it's like the way I'm watching this, it's like none of these teams want to win, and then it comes down to a Hail Mary, and then Buffalo's like, okay, I give up now. Like it's like they didn't want to win more than Arizona didn't want to win, but I mean, shoot, this is probably a fun game to watch. I didn't catch the very end, but Hail Marys are always crazy to watch. But still, my takeaway: these teams tried to lose. Like it just seemed like that from my side. But let's move on now to our transitional segment to the lock board. This week was not very good for all of us. First round had no correct picks. We only had 4 correct locks in total, and really 2 of those were 1-pointers, so those aren't really locks. But yeah, so Eric, you did get the most points though, so tell us about your picks that you got right.
Yeah, as I mentioned in my intro, while it wasn't my greatest week, I'm still happy to get the win and gain a little ground. And I felt like I had a really good chance with my 5-point pick in the first round, but after watching South Carolina play against Ole Miss, their defense, let wide receivers get open by 40 yards where there's like no defender within sight of them. They can't stop a pass play to save their lives. So ended up regretting that pick, but my New York Football Giants, man, they came through for me 2 weeks in a row. Like I've single-handedly won the lock board the last 2 weeks because of them. So they got those upset wins for me 2 weeks in a row. So I'm obviously happy with them helping me out, keeping me in it. And then by the time I got to the 3rd pick, I didn't think there were any upsets left that I liked. So I took a safe pick, and unfortunately, while it's good for my lock board, the Packers did beat my Jags. But a closer game than I thought it was going to be. But yeah, so 4 points for me. I'm happy about that, and hopefully I'm just right now, since I'm obviously still not close to first place, I'm at least happy that this is 2 weeks in a row that Zach cannot make a goofy dragon meme out of it.
I will say, I can't imagine that Susan is very happy with your newfound fandom of the New York Football Giants.
Well, see, this is obviously a throwaway year for the Cowboys. So, and obviously I'm not going to be like, oh, the Giants are my second favorite team or anything like that. But, they're helping me in the lock board right now. And plus I was assigned them for the NFC least which team could win the division episode. So, that kind of drew me closer to them.
Just go ahead and change your Twitter profile picture to Daniel Jones. Like, just go ahead and do it, Eric. We all know you want to.
I'm changing my Twitter name from Clutch on a Budget to Daniel Jones Stands.
All right, so let's look at the total standings now after that lock board week. So there's now actually with 7 weeks to go, we have a tie in first place with myself and
Thanks,
Connor
DeAndre.
with 48 points. Man, I got major like thanks Obama vibes right there. Yeah, so in first place it's myself and Connor tied with 48. Eric is in third place with 33, so 15 behind the leader. And then Nate actually had a 0-pointer this week, so he's still in fourth with 29, 19 points below the leaderboard there. So Nate, hopefully you do better. Anything will be better than what you did this week.
Hopefully.
So because you did so bad, you get that consolation prize of picking first in this next week. So
Yep.
Let's pull up the spreads and let's find out where Nate is going to pick first with.
All right. So I think I'm gonna go after we just talked about them. I think I'm gonna go with Arizona over Seattle.
Darn.
Okay.
I wanted that one.
Yeah.
I think everybody wanted that one, honestly.
I was surprised they were favoring Seattle after last week.
Yeah.
Really.
Okay, so let's check. Connor is back up next here, picking second now.
Yeah, well, I guess since Nate obviously took that one, I got to go with my second choice here. So I know that they just got blown out and didn't look fantastic while doing it, but that was against a undefeated team. And the NFC East does not exactly have a fantastic record outside of its division. So I'm going to take the Cincinnati Bengals to beat the Washington football team.
Yeah.
Dang it, that's one I was looking at too.
Yeah, no, I've seen a lot of that. That one especially was one I was eyeing, but I'm over here now picking pick 3. I'm going to stay in the NFL with you guys. I'm going to pick the Houston Texans to beat the New England Patriots.
Ooh, I don't know how Nate will feel about that one.
We'll see. I was telling Zach that he needs to pick against the Steelers in the lock board every week because both times he's done it, the Steelers have won in blowouts. So
Yeah.
All right, Eric, finish off the first round here. Where are you going to go?
Okay, so we just talked about the well, no, maybe I won't do that one. We had a couple of adjustments to some things, and that had to change my thought a little bit here. But I want to go over to the college side right now, since I am still fairly far behind. I do need to look at potential 5-pointers.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to take Oklahoma State over Oklahoma.
dang it.
I knew Connor would probably be eyeing Oklahoma State. Like he seems to pick them a couple times.
They have burned me a couple times, but
yeah,
I don't trust Oklahoma.
Yeah, you picked against Oklahoma a bunch. I know.
Okay, that has worked out on more than one occasion.
Yeah. All right, Nate. You're back now with the start of the second round.
Oh no. Oh, he's on mute, it says.
So yeah, it kicked me out for a second. I don't know why my internet's still doing fine, but
it's okay.
all right. So look at the board. I think I don't like a whole lot of the college games this week, so I think I'm gonna stay with NFL and go with don't totally like this pick, but I'm gonna go with Green Bay over over the Colts because could happen. It's kind of a pick game, so
yeah, I was looking at that one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if the Packers can get it going, but I think I'm actually really happy this was still here because I thought it might have been gone. But I am honestly surprised at the way that the line is in this game. So, and they've proved everybody wrong all season long. So I'm going to take the Liberty Flames to beat NC State.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. There goes Liberty.
Liberty.
Well, don't worry. I ain't got no love for the Wolfpack, so
yeah.
I will be totally okay with them losing that game.
Okay. Man, I was a little worried Connor was going to pick the one I wanted there.
Well, I think I know the one that you want, and I was thinking about it too. I'll let you know if you'd get it, but
okay.
I think I know.
The one that I'm going to take here is going to be App State over Coastal Carolina.
Oh, that is not what I thought you were going to take.
Yeah, I don't trust the Coastal Carolina as
The
Chanticleers,
Chanticleers.
whatever you say, however you pronounce their mascot. But
Trust me,
yeah,
I've had to learn how to pronounce it given the years that I've been watching.
Sunbelt fan. But yeah, I think App should win that. So we'll see. Puts
Sure
Connor
hope so.
I put you in a weird rooting situation now though, because
I'm still. I mean, in my mind, if all my picks on the lock board go well, it doesn't matter if App State wins or not,
right.
because so.
You're right.
There you go.
Okay, Eric.
Okay, so there's not too many more NFL picks that I like. I was hoping this one was going to stay a 5-pointer, but it changed to a 3-pointer. So that's why I didn't pick it in the first round, but it's still here. I've already talked about this. I don't trust Jameis Winston. I'm taking the Falcons to beat the Saints.
Okay. Actually, Eric, that one was always a 3-pointer.
Wasn't it like 7 points though? Like
7 is still a 3-pointer.
Oh, I thought it was 7 and higher. I mean, I always get that confused. Okay, well.
Yeah,
well,
so
that would take it in the first round. Now I've been like 5-pointer.
God, that would have been embarrassing. Okay. All right. So Nate, back to you for your last pick.
All right. So since I'm got some points to make up, I'm gonna go with a 5-point college play, and I'm gonna take Northwestern with the upset over Wisconsin.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Big Ten.
Well, I'm
there by me.
Yes. Well, I'm glad that Nate didn't take the one I was looking at, because I was considering doing something very bold. I guess I'll say what I was thinking about doing. I was considering taking Indiana to beat Ohio State, but
that is this spread.
I know, but I did see that this pick was still on the board. This is the one that I thought you were going to take, Zach, and maybe I'm stealing it from you right now. But I'm going to take Utah to beat USC.
Oh, okay. No, that wasn't what I was looking at. I mean, the way I look at it, I have like still on the board like 5 picks that I could lock and feel confident about. So that's one of them, but not very high on my list. And plus, I don't even know if that game's going to get played. I'm a little worried that gets canceled.
Yeah, I might have to make a last second audible.
Yeah, and so I've got a lot of. This is a weird situation to be in for me in round 3, like debating like which one do I like more, because I like them all, but there's been there's been so much drama going on with this program, and now there's allegations against them, and they're playing like they don't even care. They're on like their victory tour, just not even caring. I'm going to take Arkansas to beat LSU.
Yeah, I was definitely looking at that one too.
That was interesting, because that spread when I first made it was the other way around. It was Arkansas -1.5, and then it changed to LSU -1.5. So I'm happy it did, because I would have taken LSU to win, or I mean Arkansas to win outright.
Yeah.
So
LSU has looked like some hot garbage this year for sure.
Yeah. So that's going to be my pick. Eric, you've got the last one, man.
All right.
Where are you going to
go?
go?
I'm going to preface this pick by saying I meant to say this when I was talking about my weekly picks, but I just wanted to give Zach a shout out for coming up with the concept of the lock board, because due to this whole lock board thing, it gives us like a rooting interest in games we probably wouldn't normally watch. And so I actually watched a good amount of college football this weekend that I wouldn't normally watch. Like I watched the USC Arizona game, a lot of that. I watched a lot of South Carolina Ole Miss, the end of Tulsa SMU. I normally wouldn't really watch any of these teams, but I had the rooting interest with the lock board, and that made it fun. So with that being said, I don't normally pick 2 5-pointers in a week, but I'm getting aggressive, and I have one more that I feel like could happen. And it was one of the teams I watched last week. So I am going to take Arizona to upset Washington.
I
will say,
I liked how they played against USC. Washington didn't super impress me with their first game. So I think Arizona has a chance to steal that.
I will say I'm going to be pissed if Indiana does beat Ohio State, considering I was considering that.
Yeah. I'll be happy if they do, but
Well, that's the thing. I'll be happy that Ohio State's losing, but I'll be
Yeah.
disappointed from the fact I didn't pick it.
I know. 20.5-point spread though. I would definitely pick Indiana with the spread. Like
Oh,
Indiana,
that seems like an easy like spread pick right there.
like I know Ohio State's good, but Indiana's been really good this year. All right, so that's how the lock board's gonna look, and hopefully there's more green next week when we come back and look and see how it did. All right, so we're gonna go around the hoop next, and the way we're gonna do this is we're gonna do a mock draft for the lottery teams only, so the first 16 picks, and we're gonna do it kind of like we did the NFL mock draft. It's gonna be a group collaborative mock draft, and I've already assigned the teams to everybody. And since Nate is not normally an NBA analyst here on the podcast, he's gonna play the role of, I guess, Adam Silver. He's gonna be the commissioner and kind of run this ship. So, Nate, get us started here and announce the first pick.
All right, so with the first pick, we have the Minnesota Timberwolves on the clock. I'll hand it over to you, Zach.
All right, so picking first overall for the Timberwolves, this is really going to set the tone for the draft because there's no number one like Zion prospect or anything, but I'm going to go ahead and do it. I'm going to pick LaMelo Ball.
Mm-hmm.
No university affiliate. I can't say from the university of since he didn't.
According to ESPN.com, it's USA.
Yeah. He
USA.
No, okay, so here's the thing: is I do think Wiseman's the best player in the draft, but they can't pick him because he's a true center, and they've already got Towns at
We got Karl Anthony Towns, man.
But I do think after that, I think Ball is definitely the best player, and I think he's just what they need. Like he's literally what the Timberwolves need, and I think he's the second best player in the draft. So I'm gonna go with Ball first overall. Yeah.
All right. Now with number 2, we've got Eric and the Golden State Warriors on the clock.
Yeah, so I know Connor is a big Hornets fan, and I know.
Are you about to screw me right here?
Who he really wants. Well, I mean, I will say, if I was the Warriors GM, I would be looking to trade this pick if possible, but yeah. I don't know who might really be interested in moving up and what they'd be able to give me. Like, we can't really go into hypotheticals here. So if the Warriors stay at number 2, they don't get any trade offers they don't like, we've got to take James Wiseman. We've got Stephen Clay. Like, we don't need a guard. Like, Draymond's declining. He's not that great. And so we need a big, true center for this team. And James Wiseman's obviously the best one in the draft for that. So,
all right. Now with the third pick, we've got Connor and the Charlotte Hornets.
Yeah. Well, see, trust me, I do know that that's a possibility if the draft happens if the Warriors don't trade because, they're not going to pick like Ball or someone like that. So that's why I am crossing my fingers that the Warriors do trade the pick. But so with this pick here, obviously, Zach, Eric took Wiseman, which is obviously who the Hornets would really want and need should he still be there. But with Wiseman off the board, this feels like a no-brainer to me. You got to take the best available here and go with Anthony Edwards from Georgia.
All right. Let me write his name in real quick.
Dwards.
That was funny.
All right. Now we're going to go back to Zach, picking for the Chicago Bulls.
Yeah, all right. So looking at now, those are, I think, definitely going to end up being the top 3. I'm not sold on Edwards personally. I don't think he's going to be that good, but I do think he will be picked in the top 3. So now for the Bulls here, we did say that they should go best available. And I think honestly, I think Obi Toppin from Dayton is going to be the pick here. I think that's what the Bulls need. I think he's the best player left too. So Toppin from Dayton, best college player in college basketball last year.
All right. Now we're going to go over to Eric, who's picking for the Cleveland Cavaliers.
All right. So for the next pick for the Cleveland Cavaliers, they have drafted a lot of guards lately. They've got, I think they've got the guys that they believe in and that they want there. So I think we're going to go in a little bit of a different direction. And based on what I'm seeing out of this guy, I like his versatility and different things he brings to the game. I'm probably going to pronounce his name wrong, though, but we're going to draft Denny Avdija. I'm probably, like I said, probably pronouncing that wrong, but he's from Israel. And what I like about him, he's listed as a small forward, but he's 6'9", so he can probably play either position, really. They also say that he has point guard skills as well, so I feel like that he's going to bring a lot of versatility to this team. So if I was a Cavs fan, I'd be, obviously you want one of the, top guys, but I think they'll be okay with this pick.
All right. Now we're going to go over to pick number 6. We got Connor picking for Atlanta.
Yeah, so I get to pick for both my favorite teams here. Worked out pretty well. But yeah, so for the Hawks, this is an interesting situation because I feel like the Hawks obviously had 2 top picks last year. They got DeAndre Hunter and Cam Reddish in the top 8, both of them being small forwards. And so I think the Hawks are pretty much set when it comes to the forward positions. So I think the best move for the Hawks here is we're going to take, hopefully I pronounced this right, Tyrese Halliburton from Iowa State. I like.
Yeah, I think that's how you say it.
I think he's a good fit for Atlanta because obviously he can play. He is a point guard. He can play next to Trae Young, or play behind Trae Young, but also he has the height and the skills to be a 2 guard as well. So if he does develop and turn into a really good player, then they can have him as the 2 guard playing next to Trae Young as well. So he offers a lot of versatility for the Hawks.
All right. Now with the last pick on this slide at number 7, we're going back to Zach picking for Detroit Pistons.
All right, yeah, that was a great pick, I think, Connor, because the Hawks really struggle. Even if he's a tall point guard, but if Trae Young's on the bench, that's when the Hawks struggle the most. So I like that pick. So let me take a look at the prospects still left. For the Pistons, I'm gonna have to go Killian Hayes here, point guard from France. He's been a high rated prospect for a while. Played overseas. He's played professional basketball already. I like that. And the Pistons really do need a point guard. So before we go on to the next slide here, this is the first 7 picks. You can see Ball, Wiseman, Edwards, Toppin, Avdija. I don't know we'll figure out how to say his name all together. Halliburton, and then Killian Hayes with Detroit 7th, and let Nate get back to hosting this now.
All right, so yeah, back to it. At number 8, we've got Eric picking for the New York Knicks.
All right, well, as Connor and I know from trying to rebuild this team, they basically need everything. So looking at the board, though, after the top 3 guys, I feel like it's kind of a crapshoot as to necessarily who the best available is. And some of the rankings that I see on here, like some of the guys that are higher than the guy I'm looking at, I don't necessarily know if I feel like they should be, but from what I'm reading about this guy, I feel like he'd be a great fit for the team. For the New York Knicks, I'm going to draft Patrick Williams from Florida State. Looks like, from what I'm seeing, he's a pretty good shooter. He's got a good wingspan, perfect size for a forward. And then the other thing I like about him too, just if you're the Knicks, you got to be looking at guys that you could potentially develop and see long term. And Patrick Williams is the 2nd youngest player in the class. So
yeah, I've heard that he's one of those guys that it's going to take him a little while to develop. He shouldn't go to a contender.
If you're the Knicks, you're not
looking
to win right now anyway necessarily. So you can develop him for a couple years, and then as you may be able to get more talent, then when he's ready, could get him to the next level within a couple years. So That's who I'm taking for the Knicks.
All right. So going over to Washington with the 9th pick, we got Connor picking for the Wizards.
Yeah, so this pick for the Wizards, for me, it seems like a no-brainer for me because when you look at what the Wizards need, they definitely need front court players. They've got the backcourt all figured out. Obviously, Bradley Beal is a star, and then they've got good players back there. So what they really need is a strong front court presence. And I think this guy, he's a great shooter. He's a good player, and I think he can bring a lot of toughness to this team. So I'm going to take, and he can also play. He can play the 4 or he can play the 5. So I'm going to take Onyeka Okongwu.
Onyeka.
Sorry, my spelling's gonna be bad on this.
Onyeka Okongwu.
Can you just spell
USC.
it to me, somebody?
OKONGWU.
Yeah, there we go. Okay.
All right. Now, going over to Phoenix, we got Zach with the 10th pick.
Yeah, so this is going to be interesting here for Phoenix because they're getting Chris Paul in a trade. But even with that being said, I still think I'm still gonna take a point guard for him for Phoenix because I don't think Chris Paul's gonna be there for that many. He's gonna be there for 1, maybe 2 years. So I'm gonna take a guy who I watched a lot of last season. Watched a lot of SEC basketball. I'm gonna take Kyra Lewis from Alabama. He was just a jump off the screen with his speed. Super speedy point guard. I feel like that's something Phoenix wants to have on their team. So because I've seen him play and I know how good he is, I'm going to draft Lewis to Phoenix. The future for Chris Paul's replacement.
All right. On to the 12th pick, we've got Connor picking for the Sacramento Kings.
I think you got.
Oh wait, 11.
Eric's got the Spurs.
Yeah, sorry, I saw an SA for both of them. Yeah, I've got Eric picking 11th for the San Antonio Spurs.
Gotcha. So, looking at the board here, it is pretty sad how it's already like thinning out. But I'm gonna go with like a little bit of what looks like if the draft plays out to this point, what could be a little bit of a value pick for the Spurs. They're another team that's probably more of in a rebuild mode. Looks like DeMar DeRozan doesn't really want to be there anymore. Aldridge is old. Like Connor talked about, them in one of the recent episodes. And so I'm going to take Isaac Okoro. Looks like he could be a good two-way player that, can contribute on both sides of the ball. I'm a big fan of players like that. I don't like guys that are just great on offense or bad on defense or vice versa. I really like guys that can do both. So I think the Spurs will be happy if he falls to them at pick 11. I think they'll be pretty cool with that.
All right, now for the Sacramento Kings, I'll hand it over to Connor.
Yeah, this is definitely a interesting situation here because I feel like the Kings need a lot and don't have a great draft pick. So I think totally crazy here. I think that as the GM of the Sacramento Kings, one thing that we need a lot of right now on our team is outside shooting. And this guy, for his size, is a great outside shooter, and he can really stretch the floor. So and he comes from a great program. So I'm going to take Sadiq Bey from Villanova for the Kings.
Dang. You got who I was going to pick next.
Snipe!
Yeah, he's good. I think he'll be good for whatever team he goes to.
All right, so we'll see who Zach has as a backup now with picking 13th for the New Orleans Pelicans.
Yeah, let me take a look here at the board. I guess for the Pelicans here, they really could go with any position, but I think you know what I think I'm going to do. I'm going to take Tyrese Maxey from Kentucky, shooting guard. Nothing wrong with taking a Kentucky player. So,
they're usually pretty good.
he's not been he wasn't the best Kentucky player that they've had in the past couple of years, but it's still Kentucky, and if you look at their history of draft picks, they have a lot of hits on their draft picks. I'll just say that. So yeah, we'll take Maxey.
All right, now on to the 14th pick. We've got Eric picking for the Boston Celtics.
Pick good because Nate's
All right.
evaluating
Yeah,
you.
I'll be interested in this
hopefully,
one.
hopefully Nate will like my pick. So the Celtics, I mean, obviously, they're one of the few teams that are drafting tonight that are, expected to be a contending team next year. They don't necessarily need a ton of pieces. So if I am the Boston Celtics GM, I'm going to be taking best available player, or who I feel like is the best available player. And a guy I'm looking at here that I like, another Florida State guy, could be pronouncing this wrong, but Devin Vassell or Vassell. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but Vassell. Okay. What I'm liking about him, he's a 6'5" guard, but it's reported that his wingspan is about 7 feet, which for a guard is insanely good. He gets a lot of blocks. He's got potential to be a good 3-and-D player. Pretty good 3-point shooter as well. So, again, somebody that the Celtics probably aren't going to be expecting to like come in and necessarily contribute right away, but another guy that they can develop and start grooming and hopefully become a good role player for them eventually.
Yeah, so there you have it, guys. That's
Did you
gonna
like my
finish
pick,
the
Nate?
lottery.
Oh, I think that's a great pick.
Thanks. Yes, Nate approves.
I approve.
Oh man.
Yeah, so there you go, guys. Well, we'll see how this does, though. I'm optimistic. I think we're gonna get a lot of these right, even with it being the group dynamic. So we'll see how it goes. But like I said at the start, everything in the NBA is happening at the same time, so we have to put this in the same episode. But this could even be bigger than the draft. But free agency is happening, and we did this last year with like 20 different players, but this year we struggled to find 5. So we've got 5 players that we want to highlight and talk about. And we all made, I should say, Eric, Connor, and myself all made predictions on where we think they'll end up going. So we'll run through this kind of quickly. Brandon Ingram we have as the first player on the list here, and we all picked him going to New Orleans. And I'll talk for the group for this restricted free agent. So anybody can the Pelicans can match whatever offer he gets, the highest offer, and he has to go back to them. So the Pelicans have cap space, and the way he played last year, I believe he was the winner for most improved player, or he was at least in the finalist for that. So that's the kind of player you never want to let. The Magic did this a long time ago with JJ Redick. They let him walk after he was the most improved player, and my grandfather still talks to me about that. Like, why did they do that?
Did he say that they were idiots?
So I don't think the Pelicans are going to make the same mistake that the Magic did, but yeah. So I think they want him back, and yeah. So speak for all of us on that one. But the next one is a lot more up in the air, and that's going to be Fred VanVleet. So a pretty good player, point guard, has some options, and Eric and myself have him go into the Knicks, and Connor's got him going to the Raptors. So I guess we'll start with why the case for the re-sign with Toronto.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think for me, when it comes to re-signing with Toronto, I mean, obviously, it seems to me from what I'm reading that the Raptors are doing everything they can to re-sign him because the Raptors are going to be losing. I mean, they're obviously going to be losing. They're going to be losing Marc Gasol, and they're probably going to be losing Serge Ibaka. So, you want to keep at least one of your pieces, and out of those, Van Vliet seems like the most logical, given that he's the youngest, and he definitely. He's improved a lot over the course of his time, and obviously Kyle Lowry doesn't have much left in him. So having a really good point guard on your team, I think, is key to success in the NBA. So, and like I said, the fact that the Raptors seem to be actively pursuing him, and also the one thing that the Raptors obviously can offer him that no one else can is obviously the max contract. They can offer him more than anyone else. The Raptors are a bit tight on cap right now, but it just seems to me like Van Vliet doesn't really have too many appealing options. I mean, you guys said the Knicks, and so that's probably, especially now that the Phoenix Suns have traded for Chris Paul, that takes the Suns off the board for signing Van Vliet. So if I'm Van Vliet, I say he re-signs with the Toronto Raptors.
Okay, so I'll make the case for why I think he goes to the Knicks, and it's two reasons. Neither of them really have to do with basketball, because why would you go to the Knicks for basketball? But for one, just fame and notoriety, because being up in Canada, you're a lot less known when you're up in Canada. Sorry, Canadians listening. But compared to being in New York, the center of basketball, like, it would just be he would be leaving the Raptors, where he's like some people would say the second, maybe the best or third best player. Like, there's no consensus really with the Raptors type of player, to go into the Knicks, and he would become the best player since Carmelo Anthony on the Knicks instantly. So that's something I think that's going to weigh on him. And then also too, well, this is kind of a basketball thing. So I think he's willing to like you said, the Raptors, they're in a cap crunch, so I believe the Knicks will be offering him the most that they can. So I think he takes the money there, because he's already won a championship with the Raptors. So it's not like he's got unfinished business in Toronto. Like, he already has a ring. Now he can go make a lot of money with New York and get all those New York benefits. So that's why I have him going to the Knicks. The next player we have is going to be Danilo Gallinari. I think that's how you pronounce it.
Yes.
But this is one of Eric's former boys on the Thunder. But none of us have him going back to the Thunder. Me and Eric have him going to the Mavs, and then Connor's got him going to the Miami Heat. So, Eric, talk about why you think he's going to go to the Mavs.
Eric? He's on mute.
Sorry,
yes.
my bad. I had to do something earlier. I forgot I muted my mic. Sorry about that. I was like, why can't y'all hear me? I'm talking. Okay. So what I was saying before I realized I was muted, from everything that I'm seeing, it's looking like it's coming down to him either going to Dallas or going to Miami. But the reason why I think he goes to Dallas instead of Miami is I really think Miami is going to be pushing hard to make a play for Giannis next year. And in order for them to be able to do that, they're going to need to have as much room as possible, because obviously they've already got Jimmy Butler to a lot of money. So they can't really be bringing in guys that are going to cost a lot. And I think with the free agent, in terms of the star players available, there's not really many options. So I think Gallinari's market price is going to be higher than what it normally would be if, say, a bunch of other big name free agents were available. So I think Dallas will pay him what he wants, and they're going to bring him in. Just as a Thunder fan, I'm hoping they can do a sign and trade somehow, at least get something for him, but I don't necessarily see that happening. So that's why I think he goes to Dallas.
Yeah, so the reason why I have him going to Miami is mainly because, from what it sounds like to me, what the best course of option for Miami would be right now. Because obviously, I mean, like you guys, I expect Giannis to, Miami Heat to pursue Giannis next season. But I think what the Heat are going to do this season is, because obviously they're coming off an NBA Finals loss. So in their minds right now, like, Giannis is still a year away. Is there a piece that we can get for our team right now that can maybe propel us to possibly get back there again? And, who knows? Maybe we can win one before Giannis gets here. And it's why I think the Heat are going to give Gallinari just a one-year contract. Obviously, players, they want longer-term deals, but given Gallinari's age, and obviously the Heat are a much better team than the Mavericks, so I think the fact that his age, he's getting up there and he's going to have to accept that he's not going to get super long-term contracts. And also the fact that the Miami Heat are a contender. And I think he'd pair really well with Bam Adebayo. Bam's got that strong inside presence, whereas Gallinari is more of a stretch four. So I think he'd be a really good fit for the Miami Heat to bring in for this season. And then, like I said, with the 1 year deal, then they can clear out that space for Giannis the next season.
All right, we'll move to the fourth player on the list here, Montrezl Harrell, coming from the Clippers, and we'll see what happens with him. But we all have him in different destinations. He's the biggest wild card for sure on this list. So I've got him going to the Bulls. Eric's got him to the Raptors. Connor's got him going to the Hornets. I wonder why. But
Couldn't be because I want them to sign him.
The reason I said the Bulls is just because I think it makes a lot of sense. The way with what the Bulls I think want to do when we did that rebuild talk, I went a lot of like what we did on the rebuild, the rebuilds from the past episodes we've had. I just think the Bulls make too much sense. I think they'll probably overpay the most because I do think he's going to get paid a lot of money. So I think he's the big target for the Bulls. So we'll see. But I'm not too confident in it. Eric, what about you with the Raptors here?
Yeah, definitely not locking this or anything, but I think Toronto makes a move for him because, as Connor kind of already mentioned earlier with Van Vliet, most likely Marc Gasol and Serge Ibaka are both going to be gone. So they're really going to have a need for a big man. And I also think Van Vliet is leaving as well, as we saw earlier that I have him going to the Knicks like Zach does. So if they do lose all three of those guys, I think they're going to be desperate because they still want to contend since they've still got Siakam and they've still got Lowry. They got some other young guys like, they still want to contend. And I think they then might get a little bit desperate and get Montrezl Harrell. Not that getting Montrezl Harrell is like, not like he's a bad player or anything. Obviously he's pretty good, but I think they're going to hit the panic button though if they lose all three of those guys and be like, oh, we got to get somebody and he's the best available. Let's get him. That's kind of my logic for this.
Yeah, so I've got him going to Charlotte. Like I said, I think this would be a good move for the Hornets, but there's a couple reasons why I think they're going to make it happen. One, the advantage that Charlotte has right now over the Bulls and the Raptors. I mean, maybe not the Bulls, but especially the Raptors and a lot of other teams is Charlotte has a lot more money. Even with Nicholas Baum's contract, the Hornets still have a lot of cap room to play with this season. So, especially since they're getting rid of Bismack Biyombo's contract this offseason, so that opens up a huge amount of money for them. And Montrezl Harrell, he would fit perfectly in with Charlotte. He's a great scorer and a great rebounder, and the Hornets could certainly use some rebounding, given how not good at it Cody Zeller and Bismack Biyombo were. And obviously, PJ Washington still needs more time to develop, so I think Harrell is a good piece for the short term that the Hornets can sign to a 2 or 3 year deal. And also, another reason why this is probably one of the biggest factors into why I picked the Hornets. I was considering the Bulls; they were my second choice, but because he actually played college basketball with Terry Rozier, and Montrezl Harrell grew up in North Carolina, so he's got a lot of connections to the area, and he's got a connection to one of the players on the team. So I think that's going to draw Montrezl Harrell to Charlotte, and also the fact, like I said, they can offer more money than most of the other teams.
Yeah, definitely. I think Charlotte's more realistic than Toronto, also just because Toronto still is that. I mean, sorry Canada, but it's Canada. It's always hard for them to get free agents. I know they're a well-run team and everything, but they always have that disadvantage of being north of the border and when it comes to the NBA free agents. So we'll see. Sorry Canada. But now our last one is Bogdan Bogdanovic. Try saying that name 3 times in a row. But anyways, Connor and I have him going to the Bucks, and Eric's got him staying put with the Kings. So let's hear from Eric on why Bogdan stays a King.
Yeah, I was having a little issues. I don't know why earlier, but I was like, could not get his first name right. I was like, Boban, Bogdan. But obviously I know who he is. But yeah, be gone. Well, I don't have him being gone, even though I did say that as a joke before as his name. But my reasoning is pretty simple here. Like, I definitely get why the Bucks are highest suitors for him, and I do think the Bucks are going to go after him. But it's a similar case though for me with Brandon Ingram. He is a restricted free agent, so the Kings can just simply match any offer that he gets. The question will be is if the Kings do decide to do that. But if I'm the Kings GM, even though they had a change in management and everything, if I'm the new Kings GM coming in, I'm still wanting to do everything I can to keep him no matter what the cost is, because the Kings are in a similar dilemma as to Zach mentioned with Toronto. Like, obviously they're not in a different country, but
Yeah.
they're a team that has a hard time drawing free agents. They've been so bad for so long. Nobody ever wants to go there. So when you've got somebody who's pretty good on your team, you need to do what you can to keep them and not let them get away. I wish the Jacksonville Jaguars knew something about that. But
there's a lot of similarities with the Kings
yeah,
and the Jags.
it's sad, honestly. But so they need to do what they can to keep him. He can be a good piece for them going forward. I mean, he's not a LeBron or anything like that, but when you're a team like Sacramento and you have a chance to for sure keep a good talent, you got to make it happen.
Yeah, so I guess I'll speak for Zach and I here when it comes to the Bucks, since I am Giannis's agent after all, and I'm going to be working pretty hard next season figuring out where he's going to go. But but yeah, so with Bogdanovich, I mean, to me it seems from what I'm hearing with him in the Bucks, like even if the Bucks don't get him in free agency, from what it's sounding like to me, the Bucks are gonna at least make a play to try and trade for him. I even heard some rumors that they were willing to take on Harrison Barnes' contract, which I don't know about that. But
how can they afford that?
I don't know. Well, I mean, Giannis still doesn't make too much money, so.
No, but they got like Middleton to a max and Bledsoe.
The thing about it, from what I mean,
Lopez has a bad contract.
Well, the thing is, they still have a fair amount of salary cap room. I mean, because from what I'm reading, they could actually offer Bogdanovich an offer that the Kings either. I don't know if keep in mind the wording here. I don't know if they meant that the Kings weren't going to match it because they didn't have the money, or they weren't going to match it because they didn't feel like he was worth that. But everything
the second one, but
yeah. So. But there's a lot of things that I'm seeing connecting him to Milwaukee, and also he'd be a really good third option for Milwaukee when it comes to their scoring, because obviously Giannis and Middleton are the top two, but behind that, I mean, Eric Bledsoe has been really bad. I mean, he's turned into the bum that he was for me in 2K19 if you watched any of the bubble with him in there. And obviously their outside scoring has been putrid. I mean, Giannis's three-pointer really hasn't come into it. Like he's slowly improving every year and he's slowly getting better, but it's not to the point where it needs to be. And if Middleton's having an off night, then they need someone else that can be in the starting lineup, because they've got some good shooters on the bench with Connaughton and Kyle Korver, but in the starting lineup, they need someone who's a reliable outside shot, and Bogdanovich can be that. He's a good scorer, so I think will fit right in with the Milwaukee Bucks.
Okay, I will say, because I know Zach's probably going to wrap up the show now, I will take back what I said to an extent. If the Milwaukee Bucks are willing to take Harrison Barnes off my hand, then I'd probably be willing to give them Bogdanovich at that point. Like, Harrison Barnes is like the Nicholas Bum to me, like with Connor and the Hornets. Like, I swear he walked into that negotiations with the Kings with a gun or something. Like, I don't know how he got like that kind of money. I don't know. Like, I kind of got it when Dallas signed him after he left the Warriors, because it looked like he had potential and everything. But then when he went to the Kings and they still gave him that 4-year, $22 million per year contract, I was like, what are they thinking?
They're a bunch of
we know how you
idiots.
feel about that.
Seriously, man. So if the Bucks, I mean, again, I don't know how they could afford this, because Giannis
maybe they've already sold themselves that they're not going to get Giannis. That could be what it is.
Yeah, I don't know. They've got Giannis paying a good amount already. They got Chris Middleton to a max. Brook Lopez has a fairly high contract, and then they're taking on Harrison Barnes' contract. And if they're going to sign Bogdanovich to a pretty lucrative contract. I don't see how they afford that, but they are willing to go into the luxury tax, I've heard already. So I don't know, but But if they're not willing to take Harrison Barnes, I'm signing the matching sheet for Bogdanovich. But if you're willing to take Harrison Barnes, like, let's go.
All right, guys. Yeah, so that's going to wrap this episode up. We'll see how these predictions come true next week and the weeks going forward for free agency. So we'll see how it goes. But until then, remember, be clutch.
Bye.
See ya.
Peace.